Good morning. Welcome to Get to Freedom. Today we're going to talk about spiritual freedom, specifically how to do shadow work to heal yourself. This is designed for today's busy humans, so there's no Tibetan mountain needed. Okay, so what is shadow work? Shadow work is the realization and of your darker sides of your personality or the stuff that's been suppressed due to trauma or societal norms that don't allow the darker aspects of ourselves to be shown. And the problem is that if you ignore your shadow side, then it can come out and be uncontrollable. So, if you guys have seen the movie Dark Crystal, you have the two separate beings, the good guys and the bad guys, or the light wisdom mystics and the dark skeksis, and they come together and they form one light body. So if you ignore your shadow side, you can become separated, and the dark side can run rampant. So the integration of the shadow is important so that um, you recognize it and therefore are able to make decisions and control the darker aspects of yourself instead of just ignoring it and pretending it doesn't work. And that's kind of like spiritual bypassing. If you ignore something and just pretend it's not there, you're really just ignoring half of yourself and half of what reality is. And therefore, it can kind of grow and fester. Anyway, the method that we've come up with, my wife and I, my wife is the intuitive shaman at theintuitiveshaman.com, very intuitive, connected, divinely connected with God. And we went through this shadow work process. And I'm a construction guy. I'm a commercial painter, and so I needed a practical structure to put this in, to put this work into, so I could explain it to people. But also because a lot of spiritual people, they get into this woo-woo talk, and there's no real like specific blueprint to it. And I like specific ways and specific blueprints to look at the etheric world and bring it into more practical use. So, in our course, Heal Yourself: An Introduction to Whole Body Healing Through Energy Work, uh, we talk about the triggers method, and it's an acronym, TRIGGERS, and it walks you through the process of discovering traumas and darker aspects of yourself that's been suppressed due to these traumas and energy blocks. And my wife is an energy healer. She does Reiki. She also does spiritual therapy, and we help our clients identify these energy blocks that are causing the energy to get stuck and not flow properly, and that's where disease and pain start showing up. So one quick story: we had a client that had pain in her neck for 30 years, and it never went away, no matter what chiropractor or doctors or scans or anything she got. And she was just living with this pain. Anyway, through the shadow work process and the uncovering of these traumas, turned out there was a traumatic physical abuse thing that happened that was suppressed by her memory. And once that opened up and she was able to bring uh, healing and forgiveness to that moment, the pain spiraled up through her head and left. And she's now pain free and, living her life pain free. So these pains and aches and everything that our body has, every time there's something like that, the body is trying to tell us something's not working right. And sometimes it's a physical trauma, if you break your arm or something, but sometimes it's an emotional trauma in your energy body that's stuck there. And it needs to release in order for that pain, that physical pain, to release. And there's all kinds of phantom pains and fibromyalgia and things like that that are due to the energy body having stuck energy and not just your physical body that the medical community looks at. So this is not medical advice. Obviously, they don't certify, uh, talk like this in the medical community. So make sure you talk to your doctor and all that jazz, because yeah, we're not doctors, so this is not medical advice. All right, that's done. So let's get to the triggers method, and it's an acronym. I'm just going to run through it real quick. It's take notice, register the emotion, ignore the ego's need to react, go inside, gather insights, enter forgiveness, release the block, and self care. Okay, so that's what trigger stands for, and this is based on the principle that the world that we interact with is the mirror of ourselves. So anybody that comes at you that causes you to be triggered is an energy that you are holding, that the world is then coming back and showing you. So the first step is to take notice. So when you are triggered, when you have a negative emotion come up, and for me, most of mine was an anger trigger. Someone bug me or do something to me that would cause me to have an anger reaction. Once that negative emotion wells up in you, you need to pop into observation mode and take notice that you are triggered. So, first things first, you have to get used to um, separating yourself from the situation and not jump into reaction. Okay, you have to keep yourself from reacting and observe that you are going through a trigger event. Now, you don't have to back down from anybody, but just dispel the situation so you're not sitting there arguing, because that doesn't do anybody any good. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take notice that we've been triggered, and we're going to register what emotion we are feeling. And it's either going to be some form of sadness, anger, or anxiety. And the reason it's these three, first of all, we want to keep it real simple. But sadness is some kind of lack that we believe we're experiencing. Anger is something that your ego is expecting but didn't get in the present moment. And anxiety is worrying about the future moments. So, any other long tail, you know, search term that talks about emotions is a branch off one of these trees. Okay, so decide which branch it is. Um, Embarrassment, unworthiness, anger, frustration, irritation, all those kind of words are just branches off these three: sadness, anger, or anxiety. And you're going to register that, think about that. And then you're going to ignore the ego's need to react. So that's the first step in the stop, drop, and roll emergency, spiritual emergency that you're going through. So take notice, register the emotion, and ignore the ego's need to react. Now, after you go through this event, I want you to write this down on a little notebook or a journal or something, just so you remember later um, the event that triggered you. So, if you're in an office and somebody took the last paper cup at the water cooler, and you get really triggered by that, you're going to write it down. That bleepity bleep, Stacy took the last cup at the water cooler, and it really made me mad, and now I'm angry. Okay, and write that down. That's a trigger event. So you're going to collect these trigger events during the day as you're walking around. And then when you have a moment to yourself, even if it's just like locking yourself in the bathroom for 10 minutes away from your crazy life that's going on, find a moment to yourself. And the next steps are go inside and gather insights. And that's where you sit with yourself and you gather the insights of what that event is trying to tell you. And we go into a lot more detail in our course. And I hope you guys go check this out. But it's basically sitting down, meditating and reliving that trigger event and letting that same emotion, as you're working through the trigger event in your memory, you're feeling that same emotion, and you're going to feel in your body where that emotion is sitting. Usually for me, the anger was in my chest. um, with our client, the pain is in the neck, or a lot of our clients have pains in the lower stomach, and that's more of a sacral or root chakra block. But just feel in your body where that pain is. And to gather insights, you are going to ask the pain what it wants to show you. And you are going to and you're going to come into the energy of allowing, and you're going to allow the pictures and insights to start flowing in. And basically, the pain is going to show you other times in your life when you've been triggered in the same way, because the pain is your energy body registering these events and bringing them to you again so you can unpack what happened. And the pictures will take you through a um, regression of time and memories until you get to the root cause, or the first time a trigger like this happened. And it's usually going to be in your childhood between the ages of 4 and 9, when all these triggers were programmed into your energy body. And this is all part of the process of going through the hero's journey of being programmed with your life's purpose. And so your the world is showing you what you've come incarnated into this life to overcome. Okay, so that's a long way of saying go inside, gather insights is meditate on the trigger event, let the allow the pictures and memories to flow in, and then gather the insights of all the times in the past when you've been triggered, and go back to the root point and find the inner child that is still holding on to this energy. Okay, so that's the drop section of the stop, drop, and roll spiritual event, right? You've been triggered. It's a spiritual emergency. You stop, you drop, and you go inside and gather insights. Okay, so now how do we roll? How do we roll out of it? That is the next step is the E. You enter forgiveness, and you're going to find your inner child when the first trigger event happened. You're going to let that child rant and rave and say whatever it needs to say. Then you're going to pour love into that child with forgiveness. You're going to forgive yourself, and then forgive the people that caused the trauma. So usually it's like your parents or a relative or somebody at that age. Usually it's a parent or relative that caused that trauma, and you're going to forgive them. And we go into very specific ways on how you can release the anger and sadness and anxiety from a child's standpoint, and the exact process on how you can actually get to forgiveness. And the forgiveness and gratitude is what releases the trauma. That is what releases the shadow to come out and be integrated. Okay, it's a very important step. It's the hardest step because our egos are just holding on to these things very badly, and you have to get used to softening the ego and letting these egoic holds loosen and release. And it's all through forgiveness and gratitude. And then, so you enter forgiveness, release the block, and then self care. Self care, you need to fill up with divine light. You need to get your connection with God. You need to fill those spaces that are now empty because you've been holding this stuck energy. It's flowing. You're going to feel emptiness in the spaces that used to be tight, and you're going to fill that with God love and God light and Yeshua and whatever system that you ascribe to. You're going to fill yourself up with that divinity. And self-care also in the physical, you can do pamper yourself with bubble baths or whatever you do to do that. So that is the triggers method. Very quick overview of what it is and how it works. if you want more information, we have a whole course detailing this process that's very important for you to go through. It's if you go to get2freedom.com, that's get the number 2 freedom.com, and go into the spiritual freedom section, there will be a link to our course, Heal Yourself, an introduction to whole body healing through energy work. I encourage you to go through that. There's PDFs to download. There's a workbook. There's a process to do this. As of this recording, it's free right now. And I can't promise that'll be free forever. So go get that right now at get2freedom.com under spiritual freedom. Feel free to explore the other things on that site. If you want money freedom, body freedom, or spiritual freedom, it's all available for you there. Remember, don't just dream of freedom, get to freedom. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.